what the Prime Minister took action on Friday. He has banned the entry permanently for thousands of ranking members of the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard in Iran. But for many, including yourself, this fell short of the demand of calling them, or the organization, a terrorist organization. Talk to me about your response to what the Prime Minister has and has not done.
You know, we welcome that decision, but with, as we understood, there are some deficiencies in the law. So we didn't want anybody innocent to be affected on that as the same way the government thought. But we wanted the whole IRGC be listed. But we understood that because of the deficiencies in the law, they couldn't have any exemption. They couldn't make any exemption without having a motion in the parliament. I think the right move to do is to have a motion in the parliament, have an exemption for those innocent people that they have been in military service in IRGC years ago, and then put the whole IRGC on the list.
But some have argued that a permanent ban from entering the country, an increased emphasis on removing their assets and seizing assets is a stronger move than just designating them as a terrorist group, that it's more symbolic than anything else. Why do you need that terrorist designation?
I mean, when we talked to the government and we explained our demands, we wanted this money laundering of IRGC to be stopped. You know, that at the same time that we are talking, they're shooting at civilians in the streets of Tehran and other cities in the country. So this money shouldn't turn to be a bullet and go to the Iranian people. That's why we want, like, the top officials be banned coming here, their family members, and also this money, this dirty money that comes from Iran should be banned. This is a very important move, and we have to see what government will do about that.
Okay, so clearly the Prime Minister has acknowledged some of that some of the money will be seized. Many thousands are going to be banned, but I know you wanted more, both from the issue of certain individuals being banned, the organization being called terrorist, and also further calls for justice for the families of the victims of PS 752. The Prime Minister addressed why things are moving slowly. Let's have a listen to him.
The Canadian government and past Canadian governments have been consistent in condemning this murderous regime and in holding them to account. 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, 1,000 days ago, when PS 752 was callously shot down by the IRGC and by the Iranian government, we committed to holding them to account. Unfortunately, as I've said directly to the families, this doesn't move as quickly as we'd like, partially because the Iranian regime has been absolutely determined not to accept any responsibility for these acts of violence.
Hamed, your response?
Actually, from day one, we knew that Iran is not going to cooperate. And honestly, we don't want to hear more about the complexity and delicacy of the case. We want some actions, and the families, they submitted in International Criminal Court a file, like on 14th of September, the least that our government can do to write a support letter to support the association of the families, and also referral of this case to ICAO should be done today. Like 3 months from now, who knows what's going to happen in Iran?
You know, Hamed, it astounds me. It's been 1,000 days, 3 years, and we have spoken so many times over the course of the 3 years. How are you all dealing with this? How does the fight keep going?
We are very focused on our goals, and I think without the truth and without justice, we are not going to accept any compensation, any apology. We are very, we want this case in an international court. And with the revolution that is going on in Iran, now we have a chance to have a trial in free Iran before our government takes this to international court, and I think this is very disappointing.
I'm glad you brought up what you have described as a revolution in Iran. This has dominated news headlines. The incredible scenes, including what we're playing right now in Iran, young people, old people, rich and poor, all out on the streets saying enough. And we have seen unbelievable protests outside of Iran, including just outside of Toronto, Richmond Hill, Ontario, last weekend. You were there, Hamed. And the police estimate 50,000 people were out there together in solidarity for one movement, for the liberation of the Iranian people. I just ask you, and you spoke there, you were there right up in the front. What does this feel like, 50,000 people together?
This is a power of powerless, in my opinion. And it was a teamwork of a civil activists with the support of Association of the Families. And you saw that it extended to 150 cities around the world. So this is the echo of the voice of Iranian people. And I think this revolution should be acknowledged by the free world. And we have to see some movements. One of the actions that we needed to see to support Iranians to have access to internet. And of course, we need the free world to expel ambassadors of Iranian regime. If I talk about Canada, Iran's representative in ICAO, I think that's the first person should be expelled from this country.
What do you mean about that? Explain that to me.
You know, his name is Farhad Parvaresh. This is the person who has denied downing PS752 for the first 3 days. And this is a person who had ties with Quds Force. But he lives in Montreal, Canada. When people are getting killed in Iran and are under pressure, this person, I think, doesn't deserve to live in a free country like Canada and other ambassadors of the Iranian regime in the world.
Excuse me, Hamed, you know there's going to be pushback on this. People are going to watch and say, how do you know he's there? How are you making such accusations? What do you know that the police or that the federal government does not know?
You know, for the last 2-3 years, we have informed police about, there's a tape recording of the former Foreign Affairs Minister of Iran that he clearly says that Farhad Parvaresh had ties with Quds Force and Qasem Soleimani to smuggle weapons to Syria. And this is an act of terrorism. And that's not even enough for our government to do that. And seeing these scenes, these horrible scenes that happens in Iran in the hands of the brutal regime, I think should convince everybody that having negotiation with this regime is futile and they have to take concrete actions to punish them.
Okay. You know what? For the purposes of transparency, we will try and follow up on what you're saying about the individual that you say is here and what you allege that he's done, because at this very moment, I can't independently verify what you're saying. And I just want to be clear to the audience about that.